All right, gang, we're going to give this a try here. We're out here on a beautiful Saturday afternoon out here at the mill, and we got some work to get done. So I dropped a tree the other day, and it's pretty good size. You can see some of the logs back here. Yesterday I was out here milling a little bit, making sure really everything was kind of up and going from over the 6 months I had off and everything. It was you know, I just wanted to make sure everything was all set and everything was working well with the mill. So I did do some milling yesterday, so we're going to keep going with it today. I got 4 pretty good sized logs here, so I hope the cant is 15 to 18 inches square as I start lopping these off. So if you've been around, if you watch any of my milling videos, you know this is kind of how this goes. I get the log up onto the rack here, I spray it off with my pressure washer, and then that's just to get all the dirt and the grime and the rocks and stuff off from being out here in the driveway. So I'll pull them up here, get the rocks off, and then we'll roll it on over to the mill and we'll start milling. Let's get to it. I usually put my little bridge pieces across here in case when I start rolling the log up here, it gets a little ornery and wants to decide to roll forward. It's just one of those things. So I'll put these out, and I'll also put my log stops up in the back here. Again, these will be up just to make sure it doesn't run off the back side of the mill. Really, if a log fell off the back side of the mill here, or really worst case would be the area between the rack and the mill, it would really be tough to get that out of there, especially the size of these here. This part here, as far as getting the log up onto the rack, are really not that difficult with the winch and how I have it set up. But I really have to make sure that it's square when it comes up here. My rack is further towards the head of the saw than it really should be. So I got to make sure the log is kind of towards the tail of the track here, because if I roll it up as it is right now, it would end up hitting the head of my of the mill. So I just kind of angle it a little bit so that it rolls up here at a little bit of an angle. And it's kind of easier to do here as it's on the ramp on the way up onto the rack. So I can just lift one side up a little bit and the other side falls down, and that gets it coming up the rack, you know, kind of the direction I need it. This is the time now where I just kind of eyeball it to make sure it just doesn't start to roll this way. And if it does, everything's in place to help stop it. There are still some some things that kind of help me out, and that's those little stobs that are there from the rings of branches that go around it. So they get on the rack itself, and they kind of act as like a little brake for it. So when I first put the mill together here with my winch, I had a wire winch with it. I didn't like it. Once it starts to show a little bit of rust or anything like that, I really start to wonder if it, maintains its strength, integrity, and especially being an outdoor type of environment. I replaced the wire with the basically like seatbelt material. Super strong. I could see if it starts to tear. I keep it covered all the time now. I usually throw a little bucket over it just to keep the debris off it and everything like that. But so far, this has really been working out great. I usually come down here and line this up here for the next log to come down the chute here to get up on the rack. It just helps me line up the log a little better. So right now, it's just about in the middle of the rack. You can see I can push this around a little bit. It's not going anywhere, but it's nice that it's pretty level in the sense that I can push it around, and that once I spray off one side and everything, I still need to get the bottom, so I roll it a little bit further. So I'm going to run the pressure washer now, so it might be a little loud. Those of you who are just joining us here, hopefully, I don't know, adjust your volume, I guess. I don't know what it would be like on the inside. If I eyeball any rocks or anything that don't initially come out, I try and grab them and knock them out. It's usually spots that protrude away from the log. right, so I give it a pretty good once over with the pressure wash, really concentrating really on the protrusions, the things that stick out. And especially with these pines, in fact, I've got a big hunk of sap on my shoe. The sap, as you're pushing it around the driveway and everything like that, the rocks just tend to be stuck to the sap, and that's kind of what we're trying to avoid here. So now I'm just kind of taking a look to see what my alignment looks like. It looks good from here. Try and get this up here. Wow. Ooh. That was a little harder than I would have liked it. Problem with that is that my log stops here can have a tendency they might bend. That wouldn't be good. Yeah, I am only about, a half inch, well, about an inch away from my guard protectors here from the blade and everything. So once we get this up higher, yeah, the blade itself is a good foot away, maybe about 8 inches away from the front of the log. So no problem there. So from here, I got the fat end down here towards the head of the saw. I got the narrow end up here at the end. I've got my toe board, so I'm gonna take some measurements. I'm gonna check the pith. I always try and level the pith. So if the pith is at 40 inches down on this end, I want it 40 inches down here. And I have a toe board. That's this red thing that's down here. It's actually a motorcycle lift, I guess. But it does a great job of lifting these end up. And one of the reasons why I really like it is if the logs don't come up here in this fashion with the fat end down here to the left and then the skinny end down here on my right, I can move this toe board. It's not permanently affixed anywhere. It's just up on a cinder block and a 4x6 that's there. So I think that's been working out great. I've been super happy with it. So now I do want the log to come towards me a little bit now, and with the log stop up as high as they are right now, it kind of stops it because I'm hitting higher on the log. So I'm going to drop these down so I can get a little more roll towards this side here. Again, really the only thing I want to try and not do is roll it off the end here, and this shouldn't be a problem. Plus I have a kind of like a log dog on this side. There we go. You guys won't be able to see this on this side, but I've got a little piece over here that just helps hold the log in place there. That's really pretty centered. I kind of center the log here on this opening that's here, and then now I'll check for the height of the pith here in the middle. This end's gonna have to come up a little bit, I'm sure. I'm about 32 1/4 down on this end. Oh, and just for, I guess, everybody's knowledge here, let's get a measurement on how wide this is here. So from bark to bark, about 23 inches. 23 inches across. What do we say? 32 and a quarter. Yeah, I'm just from 32 and a quarter. Oh, wow. That is exactly the same. So no movement. I won't have to do anything to it. That's great. So the only other thing I check on these logs is that when they are dropped, they tend to crack along the, especially around the sapwood. So I usually check to make sure that if it is up on here with some crack in it, that's really one of the first things, or something that will be on one of the flat cuts. So if this top portion was cracked, this would, I want this to be cut. I wouldn't leave it at like a 45 to where half of it gets cut and then, you know, a piece of it gets cut on the other side. So I just try and line that up. And in fact, the next log I have up here was at a crack. I might walk you guys over there to just kind of look at that and see what I'm talking about here once I kind of get going. So, but yeah, everything was good. Pith's level. I have a relatively new blade on here. I have been taking larger slabs off, really just to try and save time. But again, we'll see how it goes. I hope to get, I don't think I should have any problem getting a 15 by 15 cant off of this. We'll see how it goes. Let's fire it up. So again, I apologize for probably the noise that this is gonna be making on your video there, but I gotta cut the wood, right? Let's do it. I just want to give you an idea of kind of what my mentality on this is. Some of you may notice, I'm sure, I do go slow, especially with some of these bigger logs. I go slow here at the beginning with these slab cuts because as you're making your way through it and you're getting into this bark, the fibrous material in the bark gets caught up in my blade. So there's a tendency for the blade to kind of surf up and down if it becomes really an issue. And it really makes a difference when you're doing really shallow kind of slab cuts where you're just basically cutting through just the first like inch or so of the bark. So I have noticed that when I do make these initial slab cuts, I tend to take more wood off than I used to, I guess. And the other thing are the knots. When you make your way through the knots, if again may seem like common sense, if you don't have a sharp blade, my blade on this tends to dive and kind of rise a little bit. So I always kind of check over the knots. I do have, slight, this might be, maybe like a 64th of an inch or something. It's really not much, but the initial cut looks fantastic. I'm super happy with it. So, and yeah, I got through just about all of the sapwood here on the middle of it. So what I'm probably going to do to help the cant out down the line is take an inch off of here, take another inch slab off, that'll widen it a little bit, and then I'll be able to use the middle of it to make a board, to make some lumber out of that. Let me just see because the width of this here, that's 10 inches. That's perfect. The battens, I am primarily right now making the battens or prepping the wood to make the battens. So I need boards that are really divisible by 3. So a 9-inch board is perfect. I can get 3 battens out of that. So we'll take a inch thick cut off of the top here. Again, this will widen out a little bit. Then I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees and then start working on the bottom side of it here. So let's get to it. I hate grabbing the end of these. I just put my hand in a bunch of sap that's down here. So this here, I'm going to set this off to the side, and then when the log is done and milled up, I'll come back to these kind of slab cuts, and then I will edge them prior to going over on the stack. I will usually try and keep them as clean as I can. I'm always kind of dusting stuff off. I'm sure it drives some people crazy. Kind of cleaning this side here. This has a little bit of a purpose because I'm going to rotate this now 180 degrees, and this is going to be down on the bunks. So I don't want anything to kind of throw off the level aspect of the log once it gets down there. Plus it's damn pretty. Shut that off in case I have anything pertinent to say. I doubt it, but so log stops might be good where they're at. I really just need this log to roll over them. I don't want to lose the log off the other side. There we go. I know some people put sections of PVC, some Schedule 40 or Schedule 80 up over these to help the log slide a little bit, but I just haven't gotten to it. So one of the things I've started to do is actually roll kind of a new method I'm using, at least for me, in that so I know this edge is flat. Was it great cut? It's flat, and I have now been rolling these 180 degrees, so this now will sit down on the bunk, and I can get another square side on the bottom. So historically in the past, I have had, it's just little things that kind of do that. Where I've had some 4x4s where they haven't been square, they've been off a little bit, so I've had to compensate on doing some of the finishing work. So I'm trying to make them as square as I can, and I'm just giving it a try. I just started using this, I guess you could say, technique here with this tree here. Just checking to make sure it's not actually pushing those stops down. Again, I'm eyeballing the arch of this end with this opening here. I want it to come this way a little bit. I use a pry bar to kind of help me out a little bit. Well, I'm obviously high in the middle a little bit because it moves this end. Oh, no, that worked out well. Okay, I'm centered in my opening for my saw head here. That looks good. I'm going to check the pith height. Right at 31 1/4. I mean 31 1/8. I'm okay with that. So now same thing. I'm going to take a slab cut off the top, probably take some decent amount of wood, and then potentially get a another 1-inch board out of that. And it's at this point really I start to take into consideration the cant height from bottom to top once I make these cuts. Again, I'm trying to work in something that's divisible by 3. So that's kind of my mentality behind it. Of course, really once these are cut, 90% of the lumber that I use is just a 1-inch board. So I can cut these down. I can throw them back up here on the mill and cut them down to an 8-inch board, a 6-inch board, you know, whatever, as I need them, which is the great thing about having, one of the many great things about having my own mill here. All right, that cut there went great. You may have heard the engine bog a little bit, and it was around these knots here that are here. But the cut is really nice and flat again. I realize I go slow. That's just how it is. But I can't complain about the quality of the lumber that generally comes off this thing. So that cut there was made at 17 inches above the bunk. And when I say bunk, I'm talking about this part here that the log is actually resting on. So I'm probably going to do the same thing, take another 1-inch slab off of this, and then that'll knock that down to 16-ish or so. I've got, yeah, a good 10.5. Narrowest part here is still over 10. A little bit of sapwood left in the middle here, but I think I'll be fine getting a 10-inch board here out of this. So let's do that. Take another inch off the top here, and then we'll rotate, we'll square it up, and then we'll make some more cuts. Now again, here for this side here that I'm cleaning off now, this is actually going to be rotated up 90 degrees. So this is the side here that I'm going to use. I have a little torpedo level that I use to make sure the side is plumb. So I don't want anything on the side of it here that's going to throw that off. I try to do it as best I can. Great looking piece of wood here. Again, these ones that are sitting over here, I will come back after this cant is milled down. I will come back and take the live edge off of each one of these. We should be able to get 10-inch boards out of those. That looks great. All right, let's rotate it up 90 degrees. This may get a little tricky in the sense it may want to roll a little bit, so I'm going to prop it up on the other side. My log dog on the other side, I'll have to prop that up. It's one of those things where you wish you had three other hands. Now, because this side has a flat edge on it, I want this up really as high as I can. These are square to the bunk, pretty close. Hand in sap again. Love it. So once I get this over round about the 90-degree side, again, I have that flat side on the bottom, which will be good for my log dog. I'll sit nice and flush on it. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have this super long cant hook. Okay. That's up. I've got my log dog on this side. It's not going to roll anywhere right now. So because this log dog has a screw function to it, it screws into the wood to hold it, I can also use that to manage the plumbness, I guess, of the log itself. Yeah, the top needs to come this way a little bit, so I'll crank on this. Make sure I'm up high enough on it to get a little leverage. And that'll just barely move it, which is nice. Again, I'm dealing with a very high-end plastic torpedo level here, so I'm sure it's uber accurate. And it looks fantastic, actually. I've never actually taken a carpenter square to it once I make this top cut, just to check the angle of it. I mean, I'm sure I could, but I think that would lead to another 4-hour event of me out here trying to square everything up. But it's called rough sawn lumber for a reason, but we do the best we can. Again, I just always kind of look it over for knots or anything that may obstruct it or cause a little, slowdown. This mill here I have, this mill has a 13 horsepower engine on it, okay? I realize, and everyone knows that mills come in all sorts of varieties from, I think Harbor Freight makes a mill that's might be $3,000 maybe. I mean, they make these mills, commercial stuff, up to $80,000, $100,000 and stuff like that with diesel engines and things like that. So this is great for my purposes. I've been enjoying it, and yeah, yeah, it's just great. It's just, you can't be in a rush. That's the only thing about it. I'm actually going to check the pith as well too. It seems like it's leaning down, but I've thought that twice now and have been surprised how level it was. So we're up just over 34 inches here. Yeah, see, 34, so it's just the width of the log that's giving me that kind of optical illusion. All right, let's get a slab cut here and see what we got. Another a little wood still left. This one may have some wane here, so let's. This will really improve our, the bark aspect of it once we start ripping slabs off of it here. So I am noticing here that cut there, I was definitely having to force the blade through the wood itself. So I'm going to swap the blade out, and we'll make that, make a new blade here for the majority of the cant that's going to come off the log here. That last cut I just made right there, that had the blade set at 21.5 inches above the bunk. So once we flip this over now, we're going to flip this over 180 degrees and we'll make the last slab cuts out of this, and that's going to determine, start to determine the size of my cant. So very slight kind of diving a little bit here around these knots, just ever so slightly. The cut looks great, but I'm going to swap the blade out and make things a little bit easier for me. The 4 logs I cut yesterday, I started with a older blade on it. I got through maybe 1.5 of the logs. The logs weren't, they were the top of the tree. They weren't nearly this large, but again, a lot of bark. So the bark holds a lot of the things that dull the blades. So it's just kind of the way it is. So I probably went through, I think maybe two blades. This might be my 3rd blade on this tree itself. And again, this is pine, this is white pine. It's not a hardwood or anything like that, but you know, the sharper your blade, the easier it is to make all these cuts. So let's get this one off and get a new one on. It's easiest to change these down here towards the end. You got kind of room to maneuver around the front. The band wheels and everything are, this will be the first day it goes kind of wonky on me, but the blade changes really, I don't know, couldn't be much easier. First thing, I got to relieve the tension off the band wheels, blade out of here, and just like that, the blade is out. I don't know if you guys can see this on this side here. Let me do it over here. But this is how I roll these up. I just stand on the middle of it here, hold the blade. Of course, using gloves with this is definitely important. Just overhand it and then just kind of spin it. And that rolls it up into a nice kind of a tight circle there. And that's how, when you ship these off to get them sharpened, this is how I ship them off in a larger box. And this is how they come back. So one of the things I'm back here fumbling around my shed. I put a zip tie on these old bands just to kind of keep them together. And again, like I said, that's how I ship them off to get sharpened. That band holds them together. I got a stack of blades here that need to be sharpened. I reach in the new blade box and grab a new one. I should say a resharpened one. Where I get these sharpened from is a place down in Alabama that makes mills and sharpening things, all things, you know, sawmill related. So they do a really good job. It can be a bit dicey getting these out, but that went pretty well. So now there's really, I haven't really developed a good technique for kind of sliding these in there because they got to go in like 5 different places all at once. And again, it's one of these things you wish you had 4 other sets of hands. It's got to go around the band wheels, through these guide rollers, over the top. See that? So then if there's not enough space between the band wheels for this to slide in there, it'll start popping out and everything. Now, if you've never seen the inside of one of these mills, these band wheels are really, they have a V groove on the outside of them and a belt, just a regular belt. Looks like we're getting a FedEx package. I will All right, guys. Get this on mic back up. Yeah, it's funny. Last night was the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight, so everybody likes talking about it. Anyway, let's get this on here. So it's on the band wheels now. It's within the guide rollers here, and we just tighten the blade up. I have a little visual, there's a spring over here and there's a visual cue when you're supposed to stop tightening it. So I usually put it to that point, give it a couple spins here just to make sure it's tracking properly on those wheels. Looks great to me, and we're back in business just like that. So that all takes less than 5 minutes, I think. If I'm just out here kind of making it happen. But working here towards the end of the mill is definitely the way to go. All right, we got to rotate it now 180 degrees. I think they're up high enough. That'll work. Let's see here. Not sure how much that weighs right there, but it's not light. Okay, because there is a square bottom on it here, I really don't have to kind of worry about it as far as rolling off or anything. So just roll these down a little bit. Let's take a look and see what we're ending up with here. So right now this is just 15 3/4 across. That's great because 15 obviously divisible by 3 there, so I could get five battens off of each slab that comes off of this now. So we'll make a slab cut, might do another inch, spare board type thing that I was doing, and then we're just going to start milling off inch thick boards. Okay, I cut this one a little thinner than what I probably could have, but I wanted it set up. It's set up on the mill right now to where my scale here on the side is set up perfectly. So I'm going to use that scale now to knock out these 1-inch boards as we go down, but I'll still be able to get, you know, a board out of this next cut. I'm still looking at just under 9 inches here at the narrowest point. A little bit of sapwood, but again, I think it'll still be a usable board. So yeah, I'll have 4 boards that I'll have to finish up once the cant is all worked through, and the blade, you probably saw I definitely moved quicker through there. Absolutely flat coming across these knots through here. So you definitely tell it's one of those things. It's like as you're pushing, you know, the saw head through the wood, you just kind of lose track of how easy it is once you get a new blade on there, on how quick it kind of goes through. So ideally, you know, I'd like to use a newer blade once kind of all the slab cuts are made, again, because that's where most of the blade damage comes from, you know, through the bark and everything. So as it's sitting right now, I've got a 15 3/4 inch wide. So I'll just start lopping inch thick boards off of this here, and they'll all get stacked over there on the pile. All right, because of the depth between my blade here and the guards here, that's, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can cut 6 boards there without having to take any of them off. But right now, as I go through, I've got to remove one so I can get the next one down below it. So, and I like cutting these boards, leaving them on the cant itself. That tends to, historically, I have pulled them off as I have been, you know, cutting them, where I have found that when I get to the end of the cant, like making that last 1 or 2 cuts, the blade, and it actually lifts the cant up. So you end up getting these boards that are somewhat banana shaped. So leaving weight on the cant as you're cutting it has definitely improved the boards coming off of the mill here. Now this top one that I have, there is some weighing here on both sides of it. I won't be able to get 5 boards total out of here, but it'll be, I mean, I'm happy with 4 as far as that goes. I mean, these boards are 16 inches wide, just about, and the amount of wood that comes off each one is fantastic, and it'll be great. So I'll stack these up here, I'll clean them off, and then I will stack them here. And then once everything is up and ready to go, I take them one at a time over to the stack over there, and you know, it's where they start. I'll sticker them and help them dry. Actually, you know what I might do? I might just take these over one at a time, just so when I'm cleaning them off, the ones underneath it don't get all dirty. Rebecca's actually down the hill right now. She's staining stuff. I don't know if I've shown you guys, I don't know what's been going on down the hill in a couple days, but things are happening. Most of the boards that I cut yesterday were 12-inch boards. So these here being 15, they're going to take up a little more room, obviously. Those 12-inch boards on my stack here, I was able to get 5 across. I don't know if I'll be able to do that here with these wider boards. So basically that same process: cut a board, remove a board, clean it off, stack it up, cut a board, remove a board, just wash, rinse, repeat. So I've got, where was that at? That was down at 10 inches. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 more cuts to make. The amount of lumber that's coming out of this one log is amazing. And these are all 15 3/4 wide, 1 inch thick. Now these boards that I'm stacking over here, these are probably going to sit here for a good 3 months, I would say, before I really start to get down close to opening day and stuff like that. So they've got to, I want them as dry as I can, and you know, time is the only limiting factor on this, and that, you know, when it's time to cut them up and stain them, however dry they are, that's what they're going to be. Sun's starting to move back behind the trees here. Hopefully that improves your view a little bit. Looks like we got five cuts or so left. Well, as soon as I heard it, I knew what I did. Oh, I just got too excited. I started cutting into one of my log dogs here. Well, it does happen. So pop the blade off. Definitely the blade is going to need a change, so we're going to do that again. I hear the band wheels are still in there spinning around, so we'll give them a second to kind of slow down a little bit. I've got to get the blade out of the wood. Let's see what's going on in here. Yeah, the band wheel is still spinning. Looks like I'll be able to pull that off once I get these out. Well, the thing of it is, I just got too into the groove, you know, just kind of knocking these out, not paying attention, and that's how it happens. If I can't fish this out, well, then we're just going to cut it. The magnet for my microphone just came off of there. I don't know if anybody was out there watching this and watching it about to happen. They were screaming at their TV or their monitor, but I didn't hear you. So, yeah, best thing to do is probably just cut it. And it's probably pretty damaged. It's not like I'm going to be able to really use it again or have it sharpened. I did only start to graze it. As soon as I heard it, I knew what was going on. I think anybody who runs a mill, once that happens, they're aware of what's going on. So let's cut it. Looking at my selection of tools here, I don't have everything. All my tools are really down towards the cabins. Anything that I would use, I may have to, I'm gonna have to use a hacksaw blade without the handle. Well, that's how it goes. Let's see how this works out. I'm going to fetch my grinder because I'm not going to do that. So this will be an interesting test, I guess. I've got these, kind of, I don't know what the kind of microphones they call it, but it's a wireless thing, and we'll see how long. I gotta walk all the way down here to cabin 3. We'll see if it kind of keeps, if you're able to keep hearing me the whole way down. come down here and say hi to Rebecca. I am live still. Say hi to everybody, Rebecca.
Please don't. Oh, I don't want to be visually on camera.
Well, Rebecca, if you can hear that. Okay.
Hi, everybody.
All right, got my, it looks fantastic. So got my grinder. Of all the things I was thinking about, like thinking about doing this today, having time to come out and do stuff, I was like, what are the things that go wrong, or what do I highlight about, or all this other stuff, and hitting my log stop was not on the agenda. That was much better than working that hacksaw. Well, there it is. Again, because it was metal on metal there, really no use of me even sending this in. Again, this is really just a product of me not paying attention. It's got nothing to do with the actual, I'll just set that there. Nothing to do with the actual machine itself. It's literally ignorance on my part. So, and it cost me a blade. So what should I do now? Put them all the way down so I don't have to think about it anymore once I get a new blade on here. So same process as before, basically. We're gonna come down to the end. I'm gonna come down to the end. Gotta release, because the blade was under tension. When all that happened, it knocked everything out. So ideally, we get a new blade on here, everything will track as it should, but you never know. And the machine itself, with the band wheels and everything, to adjust the tracking, it's really pretty easy. Definitely one of these things I'm glad I wasn't on my last blade. Well, roughly it's on. It up, see to it as far as the tracking goes. Help me. Fine. So just like that, we're back in business. Now, let's see. I gotta figure out where I was at when disaster struck. Okay, we're all set. All right, guys, here we go. So over here on the stack, it looks like I'm gonna get about 4 boards across each section. I've got a ton of stickers left over from a lot of stuff here that I've been milling. So I got a whole pile of them. They're all nice and dry and everything, so they work out well. So I think I only have about 2 cuts left on the can itself, and then we'll get all that lumber stacked, and then I go back and square away, or at least edge those 4 boards that came off after those slab cuts. That'll be these 4 boards right here. We'll see how they turn out. At least, like I said, I'll hopefully get 10-inch boards out of it. All right, in the home stretch here. All right, that is all the cuts off of that main cant right there. So I'm trying to think, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16-inch wide boards by 1 inch thick. That's not too bad. Plus I'm gonna have some 10-inch boards, I think, off of this stuff here behind me. Now all of these, when I use these, like this board here, I mean, when I was, measuring for the pith being level and everything, I mean the pith, I'm cutting the pith in half through a lot of this board, so it was certainly nice and level when I was making cuts. But this board is really structurally very weak because of that spot in the middle. With the pith on it there. So, but again, most of these boards are going to be cut up into 3-inch wide battens. So this might be one of those things where the batten that comes out of the middle here, I just won't use. I'm gonna try and take 2 at a time here, just to keep the walking to a minimum. So other things I have found too, I could take these over, stack them with all of the sawdust on them, but in my experience, it's like giving the board like a little jacket. It tends to dry slower. It tends to dry slower, and then when you go to deal with the board, whatever point in the process that is, of course the sawdust is dry, the stuff gets everywhere. So the cleanest I can keep things, the better. And then, like I said, my experience, the better or quicker it seems to dry, because it doesn't have that, insulating layer of that sawdust on it. I mean, it is fairly thick, but all I gotta do is make sure I don't trip and fall. This ain't light. I've got a little notch in that board I just noticed. It was where I hit the log stop and sent the blade, just kind of tilted it back a little bit as it was trying to cut through the metal. But nothing that's going to stop me from using that board for sure. It is Saturday. I don't know. I know LSU has a game today. I think it was an afternoon game. But after their beatdown by Alabama last week, it's tough to watch them now. There was really no no playoff hopes. I'll certainly tune in and watch him kind of in the background, but you know, it's one of those things. Yeah, super happy with the cutting of that. Again, I don't know, the blade changes are so easy. I would almost put a new blade on for each log, because I mean, obviously it definitely improves the cut for sure. I got 3 more to carry over. I'm not sure what the total board feet of all this would be, but I imagine in the store it'd probably be expensive. Just that I have to wait for it to dry. So this one log basically took most of the afternoon. I don't know what time of day it is, but by the time I get these over, get these cut, get my slab wood cut and stacked for the fire, that's probably going to be it for the day. I mean, it is Saturday. I don't know if I haven't even looked at my phone. I've never done one of these live videos and stuff before. I don't even know if anybody's watching or how this all works, but I'm sure we'll figure it out when we get inside. We got quite a few things that have been going on here. I realized the last time I brought you guys along, I was, what was that? I was doing the stairs and everything for cabin 1, and so things have definitely moved a little further than that right now. We took delivery the other day of 12 tons of gravel. I made a little spot down by the entrance to the property where the cabins are going to be for the office. So I made a little pad. It's about 20 by 20 or so. And like I said, I had 12 tons of gravel dropped off. So Rebecca and I shoveled roughly 12 tons of gravel into, I put some 6x6s down to make a little square, just kind of dress it up a little bit, just so it's not a pile of rock. So we have the pad for the office all done and prepped, because on Tuesday the office is being delivered. So I'm fortunate enough, or was able to convince Rebecca that, you know, if we just bought one of these nicer pre-made structures, that's one less thing I would have to build, and you know, it'll look a little different than what we have now as far as the cabins go, you know. So I've had some coordinating I had to get done. Had to get the gravel, level, all that kind of squared away. So I worked on that for a few days while I was waiting for the concrete on cabin 3 to cure a little bit. So cabin 3 is definitely coming along as well. I poured the landing for cabin 3. Trying to think, maybe 3 or 4 days ago. So we did that. Funny story to go along with all that. I didn't have enough, because if you recall, on cabin 1, I put a bunch of gravel down into the form, which was the landing for cabin 1. Now, so that obviously took up some of the volume that the concrete would have taken up. So, and if you remember, when I was done pouring the landing for cabin 1, I used 12 bags, and I had, I don't know if you remember, maybe like 2 scoops of concrete left in the bin. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's great. I'll get 12 bags and do the same kind of method I did for cabin 1. Well, lo and behold, on cabin 3, I put, which I didn't think of it at the time, I put less gravel. The hole was level and everything, but it was a full, because I had 2x6s, it was a full 5.5 inches deep all the way around. So, long story short, I didn't have, out of the new concrete that I bought, I didn't have enough. So I got the 12 bags in. I was probably, I don't know, a 1/2 inch from the top of the board, the form. And, well, I had some old concrete in bags sitting behind, or under actually, cabin 3. So that was actually concrete that I had left over from when I was pouring the footers, I think, for cabin 3. So it's easily sat around for a year at least. So needless to say, it wasn't great. It wasn't great. I don't know what the deal was, if some of the bonding agent inside the concrete, you know, just degraded. I don't know. I'm not a concrete guy. Alls I know is that as I added that last, I literally added just one more bag of concrete to it. As I added that concrete, it was not the most, what's the word? Structurally good concrete. It was definitely not the best. So some of it chipped off the top layer. So I've got to do a little repair. No big deal. So what I'm looking at now as I'm I want to edge these boards. I'm trying to find, because I have 3 bunks here that these 10-foot boards come in contact with. And down here towards this end, obviously narrower than it is right here. So I would like this area here to be up on the bunk. But I don't know if that's going to be possible. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, because after I make the first cut, that's going to be a square side. I want to do the best I can, obviously getting these kind of squared up. Maybe this side. It's still, you can see this, as I push down on this end, that end comes up. So I might be able to put this in here, because I know this end and the middle are a cut piece. I'll put it in here and clamp it down so that it stays upright like that. So that'll at least, you know, help it out in that manner. So it looks like we're probably going to have to do that to each one of these. As we stack them up here, they're all going to need to be pushed down. Like I said, these are just kind of nice to have pieces. If these didn't work out, it really wouldn't be a big loss or anything. But, you know, I'm getting board feet. Ooh. That's the one thing, if you're watching a lot of milling videos and stuff like that, some folks have fully hydraulic mills and things like that, lifters and things that spin the logs for them and stuff like that. This mill here, this is all effort all the time. There is no easy way to get a lot of this done. So if you're allergic to effort, I would find another hobby. Oh, if I can just kind of push these down a little bit, clamp it with my log dog here. Like I said, this is not an exact science to get this cut done. I want them vertical. And that should work. What I'll do, I'll take a measurement from the bunk. If I set my blade at about, looks to be maybe, that's about a foot there, maybe 12 inches. I'll come across the first time at 12 inches. I'll cut all this bark off. We got to flip the boards over, and then we'll make another cut. So, of course, these are the wider ends, 12 inches here. It's going to look like I'm taking a whole lot off. Yeah, about 4 inches or so of good wood. But I'm really only concerned with the narrowest parts. Okay. All right, so first cut went really well. Looks like I still got some weighing inside there a little bit. So let's flip this over. So now I should be able to, yeah, that's roughly 9 inches there. So 9 would be good, or a little over. I could get 3 battens out of it. I can get 10. I might. Let's just go 9, make it easy. All right, just like that, I got 4 more boards that are 9 inches wide. Each one, there was some weighing a little bit, kind of left on them. Here's probably what I hesitate to use the term worst one, but you can see some of the weighing left on it here. That's still a perfectly fine batten if I was to cut this into thirds. So there it is. These are going to go over. They're of course a little heavier. A lot of this is sapwood, so these are going to be heavier. They're going to take longer to dry, and well, they're going to be sappy. They will leak sap. You'll see areas on cabins 1 and 3 and 2, 1, 2, and 3, where there are boards that do have sap still kind of weeping out of it. So yeah, but that's just how it goes. Anyway, this is about the process. You're trying something new out here with this live feed thing. I'm not sure how it works. I don't know if anybody's even been watching. That's the funny thing about all this. I could be just out here talking to myself. So anyway, if you are out there and you're with me this afternoon, I appreciate you coming by. Be sure you like and subscribe and stuff. I mean, it's free. It helps me out, and you know, helps anything that I make off of this YouTube channel gets put right back into the cabin build and the property and stuff like that. So but the funny thing is, I took 6 months off there to do that, my little gig out there in Glacier National Park. Because I didn't produce anything for 6 months, I am now demonetized, so I no longer even make I no longer make anything for these videos and stuff. So it's been an interesting journey. So we'll keep our, you know, we'll keep to it, no doubt about it. But got a little bit of cleanup to do, some blowing off, and then we're gonna go watch some football. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out. Well, we'll see you on the next one.